is a woman?
A woman is a quantum oscillation amongst 10,000 fractal paradigms in a post-constructivist matrix. Yeah.
What is a woman?
Brother man, in the Nubian cosmos, a woman transcends amongst multifaceted kaleidoscopes amongst 10,000 ancestral vibrations. Yeah.
What is a woman?
Man, we all know what a woman is. A woman is a...
What is a woman?
A woman is an adult female with almost always 2 X chromosomes. Brother man,
you a sellout.
I'm a straight Democrat, but I'm for the best person.
Oh, yes, sir.
Now, why you got Donald Trump?
Because I paid attention in school when I was a kid. I know the true history of both the Republican and Democratic Party. I know that they really didn't switch.
Duh.
During the Nixon Southern strategy, that one became more clever than the other in dealing with black people. We the Democrats, we were the Republicans' friends. We was their friends, but we were the Democrats.
Her head explodes.
How many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me about Muslims illegal immigration, none. Not even one will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
But I asked not about illegal immigrants, I asked about refugees. And Jean-Claude Juncker, the Commission President, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
But this is why Poland is so safe. This is the reason why we had not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland, and we can be called populists, nationalists, racists, I don't care.
Well, that clears that up.
In phases 1, 2, and 3, they did what no other studio could do. That every time a new Marvel movie was coming out, we all expected it to be great. We would go into the theaters not wondering if it would be great. We used to go into the theaters expecting, like it was magic. And since Endgame, that magic is gone. We've gone from expecting it would be great to hoping it'll be good.
And the Disney stock just keeps going down and down, and Bob Iger is what's going on with that stock?
Who's racist?
Trump.
Now tell me what makes him racist.
The fact that he called for the public execution of the 5 Central Park motherfuckers even before they went to trial.
Let's say your daughter gets raped.
I'm looking to kill a motherfucker.
Let's say your daughter gets raped, right? Now, I happen to be in the area because I was wilding, I was robbing people, harassing people. Your daughter gets raped, she's beat so bad that she can't even remember what happened.
She can't even function.
Police arrest me for being in the area, and I admit to doing that to your daughter, right? How would you feel? How would you feel? Answer the question. How would you feel? How would you feel? What did you say right before, just now? Right before I let you finish, what you were saying? No, you said you want to kill a motherfucker.
Right.
Is that what you said?
Right.
Yo, if you admit to raping somebody, whether you did it or not, you should never admit it to. And the fact that you did is okay for you to feel like that. Now, you can say Trump is insensitive for not apologizing after finding out that they didn't rape. But at that moment, he had all right to feel like that. Just like you feel the same way.
She was stunned.
Why did you argue that religious services, religious people pose a greater risk of infection than people gathered to argue for defunding the police?
The policies restricted all types of activity in the district.
All types of activity in the district?
Yes, Senator.
Did it restrict mass protests in the district?
I don't believe it said anything one way or another.
Of course it did, because it didn't accept mass protests. If you want to come and protest, defund the police, if you want to support that, that's fine. You can gather en masse, person to person, close up, thousands of people. That's okay. You know the facts. You were a good lawyer. Why'd you lose?
Senator.
Oh, come on, Judge. Don't make me do this. Mayor Bowser was going to mass protests herself personally with thousands of people. At the same time she was doing that, she was prohibiting churches from gathering socially distanced outside wearing masks.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. Not too long ago, 2 friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
This is what Reagan later meant by "we are a shining city on a hill." Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Today is March the 6th, 2025. And man, this year has gone by extremely quickly. My name is Kyle. Welcome to the Conservative Take. And this is the third episode officially. We had one yesterday, which was not really an official show. We had to do a reaction to that cluster that was going on at Washington, D.C., the Capitol Hill building. And I want to just kind of level set it a little bit and get back to the Democrats and how they are really tearing themselves apart. And we're going to look at a particular article that came out today called The Death of the Resistance. And I want to look at this article and go through it because it's from Spiked. And I'll pull it up right here in a second. But this article talks about how we had talked about before, how the Democrat Party is literally imploding before our very eyes. There are tons of clips out there, and I don't have access to all of them, but you see Fetterman, senator from Pennsylvania, he's critical. You see, I think MSNBC, not MSNBC so much, CNN, I believe, was attacking. No, I guess it was MSNBC because that was with Michael Steele. They were coming out against the theatrics. We're hearing reports on X about how the leadership within the Democrat Party did not want those kind of theatrics to go on. And I suspect that as much. Being involved in politics myself for many years, knew that this was a unplanned emotional outburst that had happened, and the imagery that was shown to the American people, especially Democrats who may have been on the fence or thinking about, maybe voting independently or maybe voting for Trump, this might have pushed them over because, the optics here are absolutely incredible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up this article here and I'm going to go through it. It's called The Death Rattle of Resistance. And it's really good. And I'm going to talk to you really about four reasons and four signs that this party may actually be in utter decline. So here we go. Here's The Death Rattle of Resistance, the Democratic revolt against Trump's Congress speech was next level cringe. Absolutely. Remember when the phrase the resistance would conjure up visions of sexy French youths in berets battling around Nazis? I think about the film, one of my favorite films of all time. It's called Casablanca. And if you indulge me a little bit, this particular film came out, I believe it was, if I had to guess right, I think it was 39, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But that particular year, the war was actually going on. No, let me look it up because I want to make sure I get that right. But anyway, the point is the movie was filmed during the actual war, and it was filmed. It was set, 42. I'm sorry. So it was filmed in 42 in the middle of the war, and you had the character who was played by Humphrey Bogart. He has a bar in Casablanca, in Africa, and he meets his old lover, who's played by Ingrid Bergman, and there's a love triangle. But the point is that during the film, they were talking about Nazis, they're talking about New York and how he came from New York, and if the Nazis came to invade New York and this and that. But there was a French resistance that was going on, or resistance anyway, going on in that area, and the film didn't know who was going to win the war. And there's one scene in the movie where the French were singing their French song, the French anthem, national anthem. But then the German occupiers were singing the German song. And they were fighting to see who could sing the loudest to drum the other side out. And of course, the French won that particular battle. But the thing about that film is what's interesting is that they did not know who was going to win the war, but you got the impression that the Allies, the US, and I guess Russia, really, Britain and France, were going to win the war. And that scene in that particular bar or cafe, the Cafe Casablanca, Rick's place, it's called Rick's Place, reminded me of what happened at the protest that these idiots were running, where you saw Al Green, who, by the way, who was censured today. It reminded me of that because you heard the screams of USA, USA. And let me pull this up here real quickly here. Let me show you this guy. And so here you have this idiot right here, Green. So he was censured, but during that whole fiasco, he was, the Democrats were booing and the Republicans were saying USA, USA, USA. I'll go ahead and play it.
Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant at Arms to restore order to the joint session. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
So anyway, I mean, back to the article. So that reminded me of that, and so this is what people saw. This so-called resistance, as U.S. President Donald Trump spoke to a joint session of Congress last night, or in this case, 2 nights ago, across the aisle, the resistance was stirring. This is from The Guardian. His piece illustrated with a picture of some congresswoman in pearls and balding Democrat looking aghast as Trump talked. I mean, the optics were absolutely horrible. The resistance to Trump's rhetoric, journalists are literally calling it that, was next level cringe. It occurred during Trump's 100-minute speech, the longest congressional talk in 60 years, as Trump bashed Joe Biden and bigged up Elon Musk. The Democrats came over all silente hiroto. Fury coursed through the ranks, and the revolt started. The squad's Rashid Tlaib held up a scrawled sign saying that's a lie, and there had all these different signs that were coming up. It was just really I mean, again, the optics were just absolutely disgusting all the way around. So, and so, what's going on here is that the Democrat Party, if you look back to the era in which the Republicans lost their control, and they had become a party of very much a bureaucratic and swampy type of legislation. And they ended up losing power all the way up until we saw Eisenhower become president. It was like almost five consecutive presidential elections were lost to turn the century. And I think right now we're seeing the possibility of the same thing happening here. And I have basically 4 signs that the Democrat Party is on the verge of collapse. And the first one is that this resistance that we just talked about was always been a lie. And now it's just cringe. These people have come up from an era of an education system where we lost the value system where our founders had of a classical education, where education was supposed to be not just learning statistics, learning dates, or being able to write and to read and to regurgitate information. That was not the point of education. The point of education is to allow us to choose the best values for ourselves and appreciate the things in life that are worth appreciating. Art, beauty, the environment, God's creation, and to be able to articulate it and to put it into a framework where it actually makes us a virtuous people. That's pretty much where the education comes from, that our founders believed in, that it was to make us better citizens so we could be better vessels to serve our community, our families, our God. That's what it was for. But when the education system became, quite recently, actually, under Jimmy Carter, when that institution was created, the Department of Education, well, it left that from being a virtuous type of organization to allow people to be the best of themselves and to have a virtuous attitude and worldview. They're now instead looking at an indoctrination of things through the eyes of Marxism and through the eyes of a secular humanist worldview. Thereby, you don't have the need to have the arts or the music to actually appreciate life and to appreciate the beauty, let's say, of a woman, treat her as a vessel of God versus a piece of meat that we see and lust over. That's another thing too. It's the education that we're supposed to be getting. The founding fathers felt that it allows us to understand and to push away the things that we don't want or don't need or will hurt us, and appreciate the things that are good and gravitate toward those to make us a better society. Instead, it's a lot different. And what that education system did to bring it back into focus here, it created us a class of activists, so that instead of looking out for things that are good for us and disseminating and having that type of perspective on life, but to instead critique and defend said Marxist, communist, secular humanist worldviews and become activists. And that's what we have. We have a generation of activists who don't have a proper framework of education, and that's what we have. So, it wasn't an uprising. It was actually an orgy of vanity. I got that quote from somewhere. I'm not sure I can't attribute it to myself. It's somewhere I got that quote from. I just wrote it down. And my question to you guys is, in the chat here, what is the most ridiculous protest stunt that you've ever seen? Maybe it's the one where Pelosi tore up the speaker of the that was Trump. He gave the State of the Union address and she tore up the speech after it was done. Was it the "You Lie" quote in 2009? I think the guy was I forget the guy's name. He was a Republican. But and actually, if you look at your history books, there are a lot more violent ones than that. There was a guy who got caned on the House floor. Sumner he was a abolitionist. He got almost beat to death. And he was out of office for several months. Anyway, but that was, that's we haven't gotten there. But I'll tell you one thing: Al Green did have a cane, and he was motioning it in a threatening manner. And I think that really could be interpreted as a threat to the president. I really could see that. But so the first reason, or the first sign, that the Democrat Party is actually on the verge of utter collapse is the fact that this so-called resistance was never really a resistance. It was always a lie, and now it's just a cringe. The second reason why this could be a thing that's happening is the fact that the revolt is just utter ridiculous, and that the Dems have staged this meltdown. So they are actually fabricating positions, whereas they don't have issues that they themselves actually believe in. So instead of actually standing for something, having a message, presenting that message to their constituents, to the American people, they stage ridiculous revolts, and at the end of the day, have a meltdown, and it's all for show. And what that ends up doing is, all it does is just put the focus on the Democrats themselves, puts on their own particular individual races, not skin tone. I'm talking about political seats. They're looking at their own election campaigns coming up. They are focused on that. And that just sends a signal to the American people that these people do not care at all about them. And, the media tried to frame it as a stirring resistance moment, but there's no way that they could actually get away with that. And again, the quotes that I saw online were really, really stunning, especially coming from people who were, you would think we're in the tank for the Democrat Party, but even they themselves realize that this isn't something that they could actually go with. So let's go here. I'm going to go back over to something to indicator as well as this fabrication thing, but also dealing with the human interest, because one thing that the Democrats were really shameful at was they were actually resistant when it came to celebrating obvious things that people who have hearts and are human beings should celebrate. We all know about young DJ Daniel, who was a cancer survivor, who is a cancer survivor, 13 years old, wanted to be a police officer. Obviously, he couldn't, well, he could still do it, I guess, at this point, but he's got challenges. And so because of his desire to be a police officer, he was given honorary privileges for hundreds of sheriff's departments around the country. And so Rachel Maddow, who is a host at MSNBC, didn't know this. And she was just, the whole MSNBC in general was just utterly disgusting. So this is from the Gateway Pundit. President Trump on Thursday in the Oval Office said MSNBC's Nicole Wallace and Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign over their disgraceful attacks on 13-year-old DJ Daniel. President Trump honored 13-year-old brain cancer survivor DJ Daniel by making him an honorary member of the Secret Service during President Donald Trump's joint address to Congress. In a despicable show of hatred, the Democrats refused to clap or stand for DJ. And it wasn't just DJ, it was the other victims of violent crime. A woman lost her husband, who was a police officer. A woman and her daughter lost a sister. She lost a daughter in a tragic murder as well. And then you saw that gentleman who was trying to become a West Point cadet. That actually happened for him. Trump gave him, or I'm not sure if Trump gave it to him, but his acceptance to West Point was accepted. And none of these human interest stories that weren't about policies or politics were rejected by these heartless Democrats. And so here we have here, I don't know how the clip here or not, but so this woman here, her name is, I just said it. Let me get her up here. Okay, so this is Nicole Wallace. All right, so I saw the clip. She made a statement basically saying, well, let's go ahead. She said essentially that, oh, well, I felt sorry for him. And, this is a good story. And, I'm happy for all this. Let's just hope that he doesn't grow up and have to defend the Capitol building from Trump supporters. I mean, where do you begin on that type of narrative? Okay. And they keep saying that 6 police officers died. No one died on the Hill other than the one person who was a conservative. She was shot by a security officer, and nothing's happened to him. And so that whole narrative is just screwed up. But for them to politicize this situation because they don't have a good reason to defend the actions of the Democrats, they come up with some ridiculous thing. And so let me play this clip here. I think I have it here. Let's see. Okay, President Trump calls for it. So this is President.
Worse than CNN is MSDNC, which is the worst. And the good news is very few people watch them anymore. They have lost such credibility. And frankly, what Nicole Wallace said, I've never been a fan of hers, and she's not very talented. But I'll tell you what she said the other day about that young man is disgraceful. She should be forced to resign. And Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign. Nobody watches her anyway. I don't know if it's not possible they pay her as much money as I hear, but certainly she's lost all credibility, both of them. But what they said the other day, they should be forced to resign about that young person who was suffering greatly.
I mean, this is who the Democrats are. They are petulant children, babies, and they're whining and complaining about a situation that they frankly put themselves in. They put themselves in that position. It wasn't anyone else but themselves. They have a disdain for President Trump to the point that they cannot at all think rationally. And now, the Democrats are just scrambling. They're trying to find anything. So they're trying to find talking points or something, anyone to give them this narrative that somehow that Trump is less popular now, that he's trending down, that people are tired of him already after 6 weeks. And so because they had nothing else. And so let me just go here. I'll show you this clip here, or this actual. Do I have this up here? Let me show you. Yeah, pull this up. So here we have this guy here. So this is actually a poll that was done by a group called Atlas Intel. If you follow this channel, you may know who they are. They are an international polling organization. They do a lot of aggregate polling. They use a methodology which is not traditional. In other words, I don't believe they make phone calls. They look at various things on social media. They have AI metrics, AI algorithms and various metrics and so forth. And they compute these polls that are insanely accurate. Atlas Intel is actually, of the past 3 cycles, has been the most accurate poll of any of them. Rasmussen, we follow them. They're pretty good. They're in the top 5. Trafficker Group is pretty good. On Point Politics, an aggregate poller as well. They're very good. And so, these are the guys that we pretty much stick with, which is also why we were spot on when it came to calling the election almost exactly. We called the Electoral College exactly at 312. But I think we missed one of those congressional seats where somewhere it got flipped over, but it ended up being 312 nonetheless. But that information came from these groups. So this particular poll here, if you can see it, I make it bigger here. This is, do you have a positive or negative image of the following politicians? You'll see that there's only one person who is above water, and that's J.D. Vance by 1 point. Donald Trump comes right below him at 50%. But look at this. Barack Obama, 47, Michelle, 43, AOC, 41, which is crazy how high that is. Kamala Harris at 40, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, 34, Joe Biden, 34, Gavin Newsom, we'll get to him in a second. He was on Charlie Kirk was on his show. We'll get into that. He kind of stepped in it a little bit. Hillary Clinton is as popular as ever at 29. And Rhino John Thune, who's the majority lead of the Senate, is at 16. And so this is conducted just about a week and a half ago. And if you look at other things too, we're going to show you a poll from Rasmussen as well to show you, because there was the guy, Alan, the guy's name who has the 7 keys, whatever. I forget his name. Lichtman. Anyway, Alan Lichtman. He was a guy who he supposedly predicted like the last, 7 or 8 elections, presidential elections, and got them all right except for one prior to this time. And then he totally got it way off this time. He predicted Kamala Harris would win big. She didn't. And he ended up being embarrassed. And now he's coming out trying to save face with some other things. talking about how he thinks Trump is not as popular as he was. And we'll show you that a little bit later, that Trump has never been more popular, and it's being steady. He's above 50%. And I remember for a long time, people said, Trump can never get 50%. Trump can never get 50%. We've been 50% for the past like 6 weeks. So, and I know I'm going around, but I'm going to go through my Twitter feed here just because I want to get through this. But all of this sort of plays into the Democrat Party collapsing, because everything right now in the news is about the Democrats collapsing. So this here is, I feel, damage control. So Gavin Newsom is obviously going to be running for president. So this is from Colin Rugg, and he tweeted this out this morning. Says the new California governor, Gavin Newsom, tells Charlie Kirk that his son is a massive Charlie Kirk fan. So let's take a look at this. And we mentioned before, this is also good because we talked about this before on the channel, about how Generation Z are the most conservative generation since we've ever tracked conservatives ever, since World War II. And Gavin Newsom, who is a liberal through and through, and I give it to him. He's got the look, he's got the slick back hair, he's got the smile, he's got the charisma, he's got the political speak. But you'll see, going against Charlie Kirk, who is a serious heavyweight. I had a chance to be around Charlie Kirk a few years ago. We were at Turning Point, and he is a heavyweight, and he is not to be messed around with. And he takes him to task in a very, very, very good way. So I'm gonna play this clip here. This is Charlie Kirk with Gavin Newsom on Gavin Newsom's new podcast.
Last night, trying to put my son to bed. He's like, "No, Dad. What time? What time's Charlie gonna be here? What time?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're in school tomorrow." He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, "I'm coming." I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is,
you canceled school for like 2 years. Once one day.
The point is the point, which is you are making a damn dent.
Thank you. I'm kidding.
When you go to these college campuses, I love watching your TikTok, which is next level. And clearly, that's expressed by my 13-year-old son.
I want to meet this guy.
Yeah, I actually
He's coming to a Turning Point event this summer, Tampa, Florida, Student Action Summit.
I actually could. By the way, if
you should be concerned.
But so let me say here is why I'm concerned, because you have expressed that I should be concerned as a Democrat, that we're getting clobbered.
Okay. Yes.
That you figured something out.
It's not me. The president first deserves the credit.
But why? No, hold on. You were at this before Trump was Trump.
I know, but
he was a Democrat back in 2011 and 12.
The president deserves huge.
Okay, Gav, I got to stop here. Gavin Newsom here, that's slick. He's trying to divide. He's trying to sow division. You catch that? He's trying to put enmity between Charlie and Trump by getting Charlie to say, "Yeah, thank you for that," whatever. Charlie wasn't even around in 2002. What are you talking about? But it might have been, but not in the form of this today. But Charlie's being gracious here. He says that. But Gavin Newsom does a couple things here. He acknowledges that they're getting clobbered, and he acknowledges that Charlie Kirk is making a dent. And it seems to me that he's trying his best to try to move to the center a little bit. And we'll have another clip here in a second dealing with books in school and improper imagery in school. But let's finish this clip up. We got about 10 seconds left.
Credit. And I just have to say that as an obligatory thing, because without him, our movement would be small. And you can appreciate that in politics. You have to appreciate the person who is the catalyst.
For you, that's what you sort of attached an identity.
It was also just the catalyst. It was a cultural moment that just opened us up.
All right, so that's Charlie Kirk and Gavin Newsom on his show. And so here's the other clip here. This is from In Wokeness. So Governor Gavin Newsom signed the most radical trans laws into the nation, but suddenly believes that it's unfair to have transgender athletes in female sports. He is running in 2028. This is huge.
It's like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
It's like you right now should come out and be like, you know what?
That's a small.
The young man who's
that's
about
a small clip. There's a much longer clip on there. Maybe I can find it and show it to you. But it's really interesting how the Democrats know they're scrambling because they know the first two things here we mentioned. Number one, that they were always a lie in terms of their revolt or resistance, and that it's ridiculous because it's fabricated. And number three is that they're hypocrites. And Gavin Newsom he is a hypocrite. If anyone wants to go back into the center now, you're going to have to go against so many things that you campaign on. And I think one of the reasons why the Democrats didn't stand for DJ, why they didn't stand for the victims of illegal immigration, why they didn't stand for the issues that people care about, like, again, we mentioned yesterday, the vertically aligned issues that are loved by everybody, is because they knew that they did that, they would acknowledge that, number one, they were wrong, and number two, that Trump's policies, in terms of like illegal immigration, for example, they have to back it. They have to support it. If they're caught standing up and clapping for any of those issues, they have to be seen as in support of coming against what caused said tragedy. You follow what I'm saying? I mean, if you're going to stand up for a woman who lost their daughter, who was viciously attacked and killed by an illegal alien, and you stand up and applaud in solidarity to, like, okay, I'm so sorry that happened to you, then you have to acknowledge that what happened to that person was wrong. And if you're going to acknowledge what happened to that person is wrong, you have to acknowledge that the policies that made that event happen were wrong. And you have to acknowledge that the president who allowed that policy to be in place happen to be wrong. And every talking point that you said from this point forward, going backwards, in support of that policy that was put forth by Biden, was also wrong. That's why they didn't stand, because they're so far to the left that to do the opposite will put them in a bind politically. But what they don't understand is it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to flip-flop for good causes. Look, President Trump was pushing the vaccine during his warp speed big time. He didn't see that. And in fact, a lot of the things that Trump was for early on, he was not for crypto. When crypto first came out, he was not about crypto. It took a company called Big Data Polling to put forth a very, very exhaustive study. We have a link on our locals page. We cover all of this. And it was 4 basic things that they did. They went to working class people around the country and did an exhaustive poll against medical freedom, medical freedom, political freedom in terms of like freedom of speech, and a few others. And they polled these people, and all these things came up, and it was such a huge divide in terms of what they wanted and what the rest of the country wanted. Trump knew that if he, the other one was financial freedom, was the other one, cryptocurrency, freeing us from demand, freeing us from a fiat currency, which is unstable, not backed by anything. And so that's another one. So when he saw these polling data, he shifted immediately. So right around that same time, he went and spoke at that Bitcoin conference or whatever. And then within about 3 or 4 weeks from there, or a month from there, he was at Turning Point in Arizona, shaking the hand of RFK Jr., because he was going to be the one who's going to help with the financial freedom. I'm sorry, with the medical freedom. And so the point is that you can change. You can change. It's not a problem. You can flip-flop back into something, especially if it's the right issue. So if they were to stand up, they knew, and I guess whomever told them, to chill, they knew that they would have to reframe their party to align more closely with that particular issue. And that would mean to jettison a lot of this radical base that you have in your party. And I just don't think that they could do that because they were probably going to risk the midterm election outright because they would be on the wrong side. It would take a few more years to get people to believe that you're actually serious about it. So let me come back here. I know I talked there a little bit, but that was pretty much my take on seeing Gavin Newsom. I got some more stuff here. So I got some questions here. Let me ask some questions first because there's some questions that came up. Let's take a look at some of these. Actually, some comments. So let's see what we have out here. Let me see. So, okay. Sam and Janet says, what are we talking about tonight? Conservative wife doing dishes and finding someone new to watch. Well, thank you for coming on, Salmon. And so basically what we're talking about today, Salmon, is we're talking about the Democrat Party and how they are imploding before our very eyes. I said during I'm not sure if you watched the joint session of Congress on, when was that? How long ago was that? Was that Tuesday? What was that? A couple days ago? If you saw that, then you would know, obviously, that from your perspective, I would think, I don't want to infer too much, but I would think that if you're conservative, you look at that and say, hey, that's not normal. and what we're seeing was essentially a party imploding. And so we're kind of going through the various things that are happening now in the media right now. What's happening right now in the spin cycle to condemn it, but not condemn it, to come to the center a little bit and not come to the center a little bit. And I have a tweet here that I want to show you guys. See if I can find it. It was really good because this gentleman actually said, okay, this is interesting. So this gentleman here named Richard Hania said Gavin Newsom tells Charlie Kirk that he is against trans women in sports. He denounces Latinx, which is a term for Latinos and Hispanics, admits BLM is corrupt, and calls defunding the police lunacy. Okay, these are all radically left positions. Okay, and that's what he is as the governor of California. And so he says here, this is the Republicans' greatest nightmare. And I disagree. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's not ideal. I mean, I don't want to see them coming to their senses. I'd much rather see them continue to implode. But what I said was, I said no, because he will lose 20% of his hardcore base, and they will actively try to destroy him. Also, he will be going against J.D. Vance and not Trump, and J.D. Vance will smoke him on policy. Now, let me just quickly break this down. So here's the problem the Democrats have, and I thought about this for months. This is the problem that they have. The problem they have is this. All right, so right now, of the issues that are out there that are important to Americans, the Democrats are losing those issues anywhere from 70% to 80%, meaning that they're dealing with issues that are 70-30, meaning that 70% of the public are for this issue and only 30% or less are against it. And so what that means is that wokeism, which is an ideology of victimization, of victimhood, where it alienates people, it's a ideology of diminishing returns, which basically says you can't be woke enough. You can't be woke enough. So eventually you look around, you're by yourself because you pissed somebody else off because you just aren't woke enough. And it's a fracturing, splintering type of deal. It doesn't work. It splits the left, but it unites the right. If you see a man going into a little girl's bathroom, I don't care who you are. If you take 100 people in a room, 99 people will be against that. Will be against that. Because that is a human element. It's just human decency. that God puts inside of us. Romans 1. We know right from wrong. And so that's the issue. And so as they go to this wokeism-ish stuff, it is a blatant smack in the face of humanity, and it's sinful to its core, and people reject it. And so that's the problem. So when you start to, and since the party has pretty much galvanized around that small minority, if you try to move to the center, let's say you try to get that 50%. So let's say now I'm at 30% issue. I want to try and move myself a little bit to the right to gain 20 more percent. Okay, you can try and gain that 20%, but you'll lose the other 30% in the process because they don't want to be part of you. They're going to reject you, and they're going to try and actively destroy you. So Gavin Newsom, this is what happened with Tucker Carlson. With Tucker, not so much, but he's always conservative. But Joe Rogan, for sure. RFK, for sure. Junior, for sure. Tulsi Gabbard, yes, for sure. And many, many others. Those are just the ones I can think about. Many people are like this, have done this. Even Tim Pool, for goodness sake, is like this almost. Because once you get away from the hive mentality, that lemmings mentality, all of a sudden you become a threat because their ideas cannot be defended on the playing field of ideas. And so because of that, they have to censor you. They have to shut you down. They have to mock you and laugh at you and try to assassinate you. They have to cancel you, call you insane. It's a cycle. And that's the problem here. So I'm not too worried about it. But even in the worst case situation, let's say you have a politician that comes up, let's say a Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, who is just, everyone loves The Rock, wrestling and all this stuff. You know, he's got all, he get the bro vote and everything. Let's say he does, and he is able to manage the woke side and get them to some kind of coalition, you know, maybe via Band-Aids. But it does get to work, and there may be a 47-63, is that right? No, 47-53 party, and we're with us up. Well, I'm still okay with that because at the end of the day, as long as with the one caveat, that's if election integrity can be fixed, especially when we're talking about state by state and these mobs that are running these state boards of elections. We don't have time to get into that, but if that can be kind of mitigated, then we will beat them on ideas like the old days. In fact, it would be a bigger landslide because the elections are actually fair. So I'm not worried about it because our ideas are always going to win. I'm not worried about that. So fine, if they don't want to destroy themselves, we'll beat them straight up. Anyway, so that's my take there. Let me go back to the questions here. Thank you for that question there. Let me remove this. Let me see. The resistance was just anti-Trump. They're so long gone because they focus is hating on Trump. 100% agree. I watched DJ for quite a while. Oh, really? Nice. I didn't know of him until just a few nights ago. I'm just south of H-Town. I was heartbroken for him after how the Dems acted towards him when he was given his honorary Secret Service badge. In fact, did you see the clip of him? I'll have to see if I can pull it up, of him being mocked by black people in the street when he was just out with his uniform on. I'll pull it up here in a second. And I saw another clip of another YouTuber who basically said, okay, so black people treat him like crap, mock him, and we're in his face, and it was just disgusting. He's a minor, and he's got these teenagers dancing all around them in these, whatever, you'll see it for yourself. And yet you have all these white people dapping him up, clapping for him, standing for him, cheering for him. Every time I see him hug that lead Secret Service agent, my heart just melts. I mean, it is just such a visceral, emotional moment. Anyway. So Salmon also says this. If I'm saying your name wrong, let me know. Put your pronunciation in there as well if you don't mind if I'm saying your name wrong. AOC just is online a lot. She wants to be an influencer, not a politician. She can steal money as a politician in order to fund her lifestyle. Instagram. She doesn't do anything real other than steal. Yeah, she's a grifter. I mean, she was in a favorable district up in New York, and she won a fairly easy election. So, and now she's making the most of it with, getting herself out there. I think she even debated DeSantis at one point, which I give her credit for trying to do that. But then she mocked, I think, who did she mock? And she pissed off someone, and she lost jobs in New York. If you can remember what that was, where a company refused, maybe it was Amazon, refused to go into that area because something she had said or something she was voted against or whatever, costing her New Yorkers lots of jobs. So, yeah. OG Dave Diaz, he was an OG deplorable here. Love President Trump, love what he's doing. Told my 17-year-old daughter that the revolution is going on right now, and it's very important for her and the future and her future family. Thank you. Hey, Dave, thank you for that. So what I would say, she's 17 years old, so I guess that would make her, I guess she is still, no, she's not a millennial. I think she's a Z, right? I think she's a Z. So my daughter is, well, she just turned, wow, my daughter just turned 19, I believe. Yeah, 19, yep. No, 19 this next November. So she leans conservative, but she doesn't talk about politics a lot. My son, same thing. He's more introverted. My youngest son is straight, like, radicalized MAGA. So we'll see how that comes out. But kids are funny. I'm just curious where she leans politically speaking, because I'm hearing and I'm seeing a lot of young people. I have a lot of young people that are associated with the conservative take. My friend Kira Bowlby, who did a lot of shows with me back in the day, super young, and a lot of young friends, her inner circle. And I was with a group called Red Liberty Media, a contributor with them out of New York. They're super young. And I'm telling you, these kids are fired up. I was at Turning Point USA's conference a couple years ago, and the young people there in Florida and Tampa Bay, which I plan on going again this year if I can, were fired up. I mean, the conservative movement is alive and well, and it's in the it's in the young kids, man. These kids are on fire, man. And if you look at the numbers, man, kids under 40, under 35 are MAGA all the way. They are Trump all the way. The baby boomers, not so much, but that's where it's at right there. And so thank you for that comment. Let me see, we out here. I'm not sure what that comment means, so I'll leave that one there. So Sam also says, so basically whoever wrote the speech for Trump is a total baddie. Yeah, I think Stephen Miller, I'm not sure if he's the speechwriter anymore. But by the way, that speech was incredible. It doesn't get enough credit. I think the Democrats, to their credit, quote unquote credit, they really took away a lot of that speech from Trump. Number one, they broke it up because he was about to get into something really, really good in the speech when they interrupted him. But no one's talking about the last 10 minutes of that speech. It was very uplifting, very encouraging, very optimistic, talking about playing the U.S. flag on Mars. It's a callback to JFK, talking about we'll go to the moon and come back safely before the end of the decade. Call back to that. Reaching big, thinking big, new manufacturing, shipbuilding. Trump comes from the era of positive thinking. That was one of his mentors in terms of his ideology. I forget the guy who wrote that book on the power of positive thinking. Whoever wrote that book, he and his family listened to that album constantly. And in doing so, it just ingrained in them, just, you're going to be positive. You can do it. Don't quit. Don't ever give up, and never surrender. And that's his mindset. He also came from an era of industrialism. Okay, he saw, I'm not sure if he saw the Hoover Dam come up, but he saw sky rises coming up in Manhattan. He saw the moon landing, all these things happening in his lifetime that he saw. America can do pretty much anything we put our minds to. And the American spirit was alive and well coming up. And somewhere along the way, we kind of lost that, that bravado, that inspirational thing, that city on a hill that we talked about here on the intro with Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan did a good job too, bringing back that. And Reagan wasn't idle. I won't say idle, maybe that's a hard word, but he was inspiration to Trump. Trump admired Reagan and still does. And so what he's doing essentially, and this is my take here, he's carrying on the Reagan legacy, just like James Polk carried on the legacy of Andrew Jackson, our 7th president. And Reagan came up and Trump saw that. And I think he has opportunity now to take on that legacy of American exceptionalism and take it to the next level. And I think he's doing it. And at the same time, wrecking the deep state, the swamp in this process. But as I said before, that whole embedded swamp is a monster. And I don't want to go through it again, but it is a monster. And it's going to take a long time to uproot all of it because the courts are really hindering him. Because Obama and Biden put forth roadblocks along the way to prevent future presidents from dismantling this stuff. Fortunately for us, we have Elon Musk in place, and we have some people who are super geniuses, and we have a technology called artificial intelligence, which has the ability to uncover things that were meant to be hidden. And that's what's happening. So as those models get built and get learning, whatever, they'll find the stuff out and they'll root it all out. So it's going to take us as a people patience, because I think it's going to get a little rocky at some point, because this honeymoon that we're on now, realistically speaking, just can't go on forever. There will be dips. And when there's dips, there's going to be attacks left and right from the left and from the media to say, hey, see, look, I told you, you know, this is Trump's he's finally losing it, whatever. But I think what happened with the midterms, I think what happened with the session on Congress is going to damage them severely in the midterms. And I'll go over to some other things too on that as well. It was Tuesday. Heck yeah, I watched it. I was getting pretty emotional on that, I have to admit. My daughter's 11. She's a Gen Alpha. Honestly, Alpha. That's right. Yeah, Gen Alpha. That's correct. That is 11. That's correct. Honestly, I guess that's no idea. But she thinks Trump is cool, but Elon is way cooler. Excellent. Yeah. No idea. Gotcha. All right. Also, she says, or I'm assuming you're female. Baddie means good. Well, I know. Yeah, I got you. Oh yeah, I understand that. I'm with you. We're tracking. I'm here for everything Trump thinks. He's old school, and we need the old school back. I agree. 100%. I agree with that. That's what America is. We did a video about 6 years ago. It was it isn't very good. I mean, the video isn't very good. A little out of focus. The audio isn't great. It's called Why America's Great. And if I remember, I may play it as an outro later. I don't know. I won't play it. I may play it. I don't know. You guys tell you what, I'll play it at the very end. You guys check it out. But it talks about why America's great. And I go through the U.S. money and God we trust. I go through the various things that are in our institutions that we see today that are still there on our money. And, you know, that and I tie that into what makes America great. And I agree with you when you say that. That's what making America great is. And she says she's in love, or he in love with America once again, just remembering what. Okay, and it used to be. All right, so great. Thank you for that. And I'm going to go back, add it to the stage. And I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to see if I can find that particular. I don't like how Twitter does that. I have to scroll down. All right. This is a good one. Well, before we can do that, let's go to this. So this ties into what I was saying before. So, all right, and this is Alan Lichtman. That's the guy's name. So this guy here, I'm gonna play this if I can.
Are reporting. Lots of Trump voters are reporting buyer's remorse, saying, "We didn't vote for this." Oh, yes, you did. You were repeatedly warned that Trump would follow precisely this course, according to Project 2025. Now remorse is spreading to the broader American public. In the latest poll, Trump's approval rating is down to 44%, with 51% disapproval. That's the worst of any post-war American president, except for Donald Trump in his first term. Lots of Trump.
You're a liar. All right, so Alan Lichtman, this guy here, just a little bit of backstory if you guys don't know. If you weren't following the election, Alan Lichtman has, I think it's called his 7 keys, and it's his indicators that predicts, in his mind, accurately the winner of a presidential election. And he was 100% dead wrong, got egg on his face, really embarrassed, has zero credibility. I mean, this guy was all over the place. I mean, he was on every single talk show you can think about. He was everywhere. Oh, Alan Lichtman. Oh, Alan Lichtman. You're Alan Lichtman. So check out his live stream that he had with his son the night of the election. It will make it. It's such a. If I'm ever feeling a little bit, down and out, I'll put that on, because he just looks inconsolable. So he said that. Okay, so fine. He's quoting something, whatever. But like I said before, if it's not the Trafficker Group, if it's not On Point Politics, if it's not Atlas Intel, if it's not Rasmussen Reports, I don't want to hear it, because those are the most accurate polls for the past 10 or 15 years. I know for a fact, because I've been involved in politics going back to 2002. Recently, even before that, when I was a Democrat, I was helping Marion Barry on this mayoral campaign when I was in high school, right around high school, in the 80s, when I lived outside of DC. So yeah, please. So anyway, Rasmussen Report, as long as I know, has always been in the top 5 of accuracy year in and year out. So here we go. And big data polling too is another one. That's another big one too. They're good as well. So here it is. So they quote here. He said here. So he quotes, lots of Trump voters are reporting buyer's remorse. That's a quote. We didn't vote for this. Oh, yes, you did. So anyway, he's basically quoting Alan Lichtman. And then he puts the clown face after him. All right. But check this out. These are the numbers. And see, the thing about Rasmussen is they do daily polling. Daily polling. Now, the honeymoon, January 20th, 23rd, he's at 56%. And ever since then, he's been above 50% every single day since the inauguration. Every single day. And so, yeah. So I'm not sure where he's getting his numbers from. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty happy with what I have so far. And I'm going to pull up this. I know it's on my Blue Sky. A Blue Sky is it's a fun thing that I'm messing with here. It's a lot of these liberals are going there because they just can't take it. So I'm gonna play this clip here. This is from, you may have seen this clip before, but this is pretty inspiring. It's a fun clip. So let me show you this.
I voted for Democrats my whole life. They never did anything they promised. They would come to the Black church and sing some Negro spirituals with us and then disappear, peer. Once they got our vote, they never did anything they promised. I vote for a Republican once in my life, And this dude done did everything he promised on steroids. He ain't even been in office 2 months. And everything I voted for, I'm getting. It's amazing. Do he sleep? Like this dude, if he sleeps, he wake up on a mission to do what Nakia voted for. He said, Nakia want me to fix that border. I'm on it. Nakia want to make sure them tax dollars is being spent for Americans more than anybody else. I'm on it. Like this dude wakes up, I feel like, with me in mind.
That's part one. It's part two.
The casino. And I feel like he be thinking about me. It's like being at the casino. You put in that Democrat coin, you put it in and you pull the thing and you're gonna win. You're gonna win. You put in another Democrat coin and you pull the thing and no, you didn't win. You put in that Republican coin. I put in a Republican coin for the first time. Pulled the ding, 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 ding. I freaking won. Wow. So you know what that tells me? That tells me to never vote for Democrats again in life, ever. Because you're not going to win with them.
No, you're not.
I voted for a Republican once.
Democrats suck.
And hit the jackpot, honey. I will continue to do that again and again and again.
I'll tell you one thing. As a black man, I love debating liberals who come at me. And I have two strategies depending on who's coming at me. If it's a black person, I have one strategy, which is very effective. If it's a white person, I have another strategy that's very effective as well. And basically, I just say, just basically what she said. The Democrat Party doesn't do anything for black people. I mean, here you have a party. It's a party of, now they didn't invent slavery, but they sure as heck protected it. So and then through the Reconstruction, they were obstructionists. They were for the Jim Crow era. They were for poll taxes. If you want to go into, let's say FDR, they were for redlining, which we hear somewhat about. And of course, they don't have any problem with mass extermination of babies in urban Planned Parenthood centers all over the country, in our ghettos, in our urban areas. They have no problem with that. The black genocide. They have no problem with that. And they don't want to talk about it. And then they don't do anything when they do come in. Like you said, they'll do the Negro spirituals. We'll come into your church and we'll say everything for you. Just as long as you vote Democrat and you pick some cotton and do us some Bojangle tap dancing and whatever. Yes, sir. We went from an agrarian plantation to an urban plantation. Instead of picking cotton, we're casting votes. That's all it really is. The Democrat Party has never changed. And one of the core focuses of this channel from the very beginning was to expose that nonsense. We had a whole series on, how how the Democrat Party has basically screwed over black people. We had a whole series on that. And so, because I knew that would be a talking point coming at me going forward as this channel grew. So yeah, so that's that. So let's go up here a little bit more, jumping around a little bit. This is Gavin Newsom talking about, with Charlie Kirk again, about book bannings. And this is about a 2-minute clip, but it's important because we're seeing, again, this is the brilliance of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is the kind of guy who is, first of all, he's super smart. He's super well-read. He understands the world from the proper standpoint. That's a biblical worldview standpoint. If you have that kind of worldview, you're never going to be wrong, because the Bible is the epicenter of truth. And so long as you base your worldview on that, you're never going to lose. And so he grounds himself in that, foundationally speaking. So when he gets into any situation, he goes into that political box. They tell you in campaign school that if you're a politician, you have to have a box that's your area that you know so well that no matter what happens, if you go there, you're going to be okay. And so he does that. But he also, more importantly, because he has that kind of intellect, understanding, proper worldview perspective, he's able to go 1, 2, 3 layers deep beyond any one talking point. See, a person like Gavin Newsom, he looks the part, acts the part, sounds the part, but when it comes to talking about any real issues, they can only go 1 level deep on their talking points. If they're really good, they can maybe go 2, but not 3 and 4. If you keep asking why, they'll never get there, because that why ends up ultimately to God. Ultimately, that why comes to God or the Big Bang, one or the other. All right. If you keep asking why, that's pretty much what you're getting at. So let's watch this particular clip here and notice what Charlie Kirk does and what Gavin Newsom does in terms of his questioning and trying to defend the indefensible while not totally pissing off his base. Like I said before, he would ultimately piss off his base if he continues on this route, and which makes him unelectable either way he goes. Check this out. All right, sorry, I didn't have it queued up. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for that. Actually, I lost my whole screen. Let me pull it up. Sorry, guys. I'm glad I gave a heads up without actually doing it first. Let me just pull this up. Sorry, I got that. I got it right here on my preview. Bam, there it is. All right, let me start over. All right, here we go.
How about the book ban stuff? On a serious note, 4,240 books or titles, libraries and schools were banned in 2023. Is that not as a conservative?
Well, it depends. I mean, like, I think we can both agree pornography should not be taught to 9-year-olds.
Fair point.
Okay,
Fair.
so that's a book ban.
All right. Well, there were some other books.
Oh, no.
Bill
That
book
was the
banned.
Moms for Liberty contention. Time out.
Yeah.
Like, I agree on Bill O'Reilly. The Moms for Liberty movement that you made a big thing of was just no porn to 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
We agree. So those bans.
O'Reilly's
Watch this again. Watch this again. This is interesting. Watch this.
I mean, like, I think we can both agree pornography should not be taught to 9-year-olds.
Fair point.
Okay,
Fair.
so that's a book ban.
All right. Well, there were some other books.
Oh, no.
See how he shifted? So he knows that he can't say, well, yeah, we can let 10-year-olds watch porn. He knows that. So instead of saying you're right, he said fair point. That's slick. That is conniving. Quite frankly, it's freaking evil. I mean, fair point. No, yes, Charlie Kirk, you're absolutely right. Yes, pornography for 10-year-olds is wrong. Period. And now he's shifting it by shifting the blame and diverting to something else. Well, other books. And Charlie doesn't let him get away with it because Charlie knows better. And Charlie's smart. He knows where he's going with this because Charlie knows multiple layers below a talking point. So let's go back and watch it again.
Fair point.
Okay,
Fair.
so that's a book ban.
No, go back all the way. Sorry.
Well, there's not as a conservative.
Well, it depends. I mean, like, I think we can both agree pornography should not be taught to 9-year-olds.
Fair point.
Okay,
Fair.
so that's a book ban.
All right. Well, there were some other books.
Oh, no.
Bill O'Reilly's
that
book
was the
banned.
Moms for Liberty contention. Time out.
Yeah.
Like, I agree on Bill O'Reilly. The Moms for Liberty movement that you made a big thing of was just no porn to 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
We agree. So those books should be banned.
Well, okay.
So what we should do right now is every California school that has porn in their library should be kicked out.
He said, well, okay. Yeah. So yeah, okay. What a scumbag. If you can't definitively say porn is bad, particularly, I think it's bad in general, but bad for 10-year-olds. If you can't say that, this whole moral ambiguity, there's no absolutes. It ties into this whole secular humanism, going back to the Big Bang, all that stuff, that there is no God, there's no absolutes. But then I ask you, are you absolutely sure? If we're randomly put together through the primordial, for the Big Bang happening, and of course, the stars forming, all that stuff, and never mind the helium and hydrogen forming the lower elements, iron, that can't happen, but we digress. But then you get into primordial soup, life forms going onto the shores, whatever, coming to become a human being. How can you trust your own brainwaves if we're just random? So anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. Let's keep going.
Does that include the Bible?
Well, I wouldn't say the Song of Solomon is porn.
No, but I
it-
mean, some have made that point. Is that a fair point? Or
I
is it
don't
offensive?
think that's fair
And as a
at
man
all.
of faith, and I deeply admire that about you.
Thank you.
Sincerely.
Yes, but no, I mean, again, the Song of Solomon is rather risque.
No, it's
but what we're
very-
talking
so,
about
but-
in these books is not just the words; it's also the images. And again, your audience can look at the images themselves.
Okay.
It's highly graphic. But again,
But it seems a banning binge. I mean, at next level, sort of cancel culture.
But why do you think moms are doing that? Do you think it's because they want to have mind control, or do you
No,
think
I
that they
think-
have come across
I think there's-
incident of highly provocative material?
I love moms, but this mom's, I mean, we don't have to get into Moms for Liberty. It
I mean, you
seems
brought up the book bans, though. I mean,
deeply organized for a larger agenda, but that's my humble opinion.
no, but let me just, kind of complete the point. Is that it's easy to just call it kind of a book ban, but when you actually have to read some of these books, it will take your breath away of some of the stuff, right? You're like, okay, we're teaching a 10-year-old how to put a condom on.
I know. I just have a problem with, who the hell is going to decide that? Government? I mean, Ron DeSantis is going to decide what I can read or say in the boardroom, in the classroom.
This is the exercise of politics, though.
Yeah.
The exercise of politics is the highest form of community because it blends morality and sociability. So what we do is we have discussion and elections, and we have boards and commissions, right? And we as a people say, okay, no porn for 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that's politics, right?
What's interesting there is that Charlie didn't bring up the point to this guy that Gavin Newsom says, okay, so we're going to let government tell us what to do. Dude, you're a Democrat. Government is your thing. So his positions can't hold water because at the end of the day, government is what they actually fall back on. So at one point in time, you say government can tell you what to put in your body. And now you're saying government shouldn't be involved in telling you what you can read. In some ways, a libertarian sense, I do agree with you that banning books are probably a bad thing. But however, we have laws on the books. If you're under a certain age of consent, you are under the guidance of your parents. And I think ultimately the problem that Gavin Newsom has is that he's on the position of that the state has control of your kids and not the parents, because it's a slippery slope on his side. If he says that parents have a say-so in their kids, what they see, whether they can transition, for example, all of a sudden he's going to lose even more of his radical base. So Gavin Newsom, no matter where he goes in this landscape, he's in trouble politically. He's going to fall into a trap after trap after trap because he has no basis and principles for his belief system at all. Cool. So let's go back to the stage here. Let me go back and see what else I got here. On my wall here, and then we'll end the stream at some point. I don't want to talk about we'll leave it there. We'll leave that there. We're done with this. See if anything else I can talk about here before I close the talk out. I answer questions and we can kind of call this stream a wrap. I just want to see if there's anything out here that's worth talking about. I think tomorrow we'll maybe talk about Ukraine because there's some stuff going on there with ceasefires, potentiality. The news cycle is so crazy nowadays, guys. I think we'll end it there. Let me come back and see if we have any questions in the chat, and then I will answer that, and then we'll call this a wrap. I'm not sure what that was about. This guy was so correct and he wasn't. He claims people can make mistakes. If you're referring to me, I was referring to if you're a politician, it's okay to go back on a position if it's the right position to go back on. For instance, like what Trump said about vaccines, he never really apologize for vaccines, but he just didn't mention them anymore. And so, but he did embrace RFK Jr. and let him take the charge for that. So just like Reagan was, I guess he's a Democrat and he was okay. I'm not sure what his position on abortion was, but he was definitely pro-life, convinced to be pro-life later on. And I think that can happen. I think Democrats could do that. And if you're referring to me on that, that's what I was referring to. If not, I'm not sure what your context was. But yeah. So let me see. Oh man, you changed. You were into longer than me. I changed from a Dem to a Republican the night I heard Hillary Trump debate. Oh wow. Didn't get super into it until Trump lost in 2020. Yeah, I was a mad core. I was a hardcore Democrat. I've mentioned on the channel before. Not only was I a Democrat, I was a radicalized Democrat. I was BLM before BLM was around. I'd gone to a lot of rallies, read a lot of books that were Marxist, and a lot of Nation of Islam, if you're familiar with them, Louis Farrakhan, a guy named I can't remember his name right now. Naim Akbar was one. Leonard Jeffries, Khalid Muhammad, he's another one. I was at that Howard rally in the 90s that was so bad, it was so anti-Semitic that it was actually in the Washington Post, and it was crazy. So, but for me, it was 9/11 what got me, and seeing our country being attacked by people who I thought were our friends and blaming us for the attacks on our country. That kind of pissed me off. As a family guy with 2 kids, I was looking to find something that could actually protect us because the Democrats were looking weak, and George W. Bush was the president. And I was like, I don't like Bush. I didn't vote for Bush. I was mad that he won, but darn it, if he's going to help protect this country, I'll vote for him. And I went to the website, GeorgeWBush.com. I tell the story. I actually went to the website to volunteer to see if you could help. And in doing so, I looked over my shoulder before I hit send, because that's how brainwashed Black people are. We think that every Republican has a Ku Klux Klan uniform in their closet. We thought that, or I thought that. And it wasn't until I started learning about the history of the party and about the abolition movement, about how the Republican Party, that the majority of the placards for that particular party were abolitionist, civil rights driven placards for that particular party. It was a party of abolition. It was a party to remove the stain of slavery on this country. And the Democrat Party was just the opposite. And it just went downhill from there. And I just got madder and madder and madder and more radical in a different way. And got involved as much as I could. But then I found out that the GOP wasn't the party I thought it was in principle. I mean, I still voted for them. But I was like, guys, come on, man. After the Tea Party, I'm like, you guys aren't principled. I'm seeing things behind the scenes. I'm running conventions. I'm running campaigns. And I see a lot behind the scenes. A lot. And I see a lot of things that I'm thinking that's behind the camera you don't see in front of the camera. And I'm like, okay, so I'm out. And so basically, to your point, Salmon, I think I too became a Republican again too, because at the night, not of the Hillary Clinton debate, it was the actual first debate with the Republicans in 2015, when they asked who's going to raise your hand. If the question was asked, will you support the eventual nominee? If you lose, who would you support the eventual nominee? And all the candidates, all 30 of them, however many it was, raised their hand except for Trump. And I was like, that's my dude. He's different. So that's why I did that. So where do I buy this coin? I don't know what that means. Yep. Bojangles. Yep. I like the Charlie Kirk. In fact, Charlie Kirk, Bojangles. The little Colonel. Did you see that with Shirley Temple with Bojangles? That's good. The dance scene, the deal on the steps. Great. Charlie Kirk has grown so much in time of coming up. I respect the heck out of that man. Since I became a Republican side, it has grown to cover so many things and aspects. He's very well versed. He's of my 10-year-old. Not sure what that means. I'm probably said something that I shouldn't have said. Maybe I misspoke, but thank you for clarifying. I went from people from people life to abolitionist. I went from modern to conservative. I went from spiritual to faith-based. That's why I'm surprised Kirk would ever agree to go on Newscomb. Yeah. He gave him a platform for sure. But I think Charlie Kirk comes from the school of thought that our ideas are enough. Our ideas are enough, and they're going to win out regardless if we're given a fair shake. There's a scene in the movie Malcolm X, came out in the 90s with Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington's playing Malcolm X. And Malcolm X, if you don't know, was a civil rights leader for the Nation of Islam up in Chicago. He was a contemporary of Martin Luther King Jr., but he had an activist mindset in terms of defense. In other words, I will use weapons if you come after me. Excuse me. So he was not nonviolent like King was. But he wasn't proactively violent. He was just like, if you come at me, I can defend myself. So the point is, just to give them background. So the scene is this. So Elijah Muhammad is his mentor, who's a leader of the Nation of Islam. He pulls out a glass of water, and then he puts it in front of Malcolm X. And he says, Malcolm, this is glass of water. And he took some coffee grinds and put the coffee grinds into the water. And he stirred it around a little bit. So he said, Malcolm, a thirsty man, he said, a man would drink this if he's thirsty. Talking about dirty water. And then he basically took the glass and he poured it out and poured in a fresh glass of water with no coffee grinds in it. And you said, but a thirsty man would drink this every single time, regardless of whether or not he's thirsty or not. Meaning that if you give someone the truth, they will prefer that or a good idea over the bad idea every single time. It's fundamental. If they're given the choice. I think a lot of people aren't given the choice because we have bad elections. We're having a media that is complicit in this whole sham of false narratives. And we're finding out now with stuff like what Doge is uncovering with U.S. aid, where they're paying off groups like Politico to carry the water for these Democrats. And we're seeing how they're pushing forth agendas around the world because all of their ideas are propped up because no one buys it. So they have to brainwash you to believe it. They have to put it in your schools. They have to put it in your books. They have to groom you. They have to and totally get rid of every other kind of idea and give you what you have. If you look at North Korea, they don't have anything in there that's not what the state approves. And the people there have no idea what the real world is like. It's a closed system. That's probably the worst case scenario of what you can expect. And that's what we're seeing at a lesser rate here in America with this controlled media. And so that's the problem. And so Charlie Kirk, getting back to my point, I think he feels that given a platform with him and Newsom, that he will win out if given the right airtime, not being shouted down, not being called names, not being edited, all that stuff, then he'll win out. And then he will win the fundamental battle because I think he reads the handwriting on the wall in terms of Charlie Kirk knows, is that Gavin Newsom is going to run regardless. So we might as well expose him now and put him in an area where he's on his home turf and let people hear what he has to say. And looking at that interview, those clips there, I see a level of deception that is scary. He's a smart man. And he knows he knows the areas that he needs to go into. He knows the areas that he doesn't want to go into. He talks about Moms for Liberty. I interviewed a woman named Keisha King. She's down in Florida. She's with Moms for Liberty. And she and DeSantis were working together on issues. And yes, they're a political organization, but they have a mission to make sure that our kids are not being propagated filth or that we're not seeing, grown men in bathrooms with, 8-year-olds. Okay. And so that's what their mission is. And I'm not sure where I'm not sure where Gavin Newsom is coming off saying that they had some other agenda. Whatever. I mean, kids should be the main focus. So I think Newsom wants to be the new Bill Maher. Club Random. Yeah, he wants this podcast. I think he just wants to, run for president, and he needs a forum, a platform to do it. Oh, okay, great. Pro-life. Banned books is a scam. Let's not go there. Yeah, he wasn't talking about banning the Bible. That's sort of what he was trying to allude to. Not that he was advocating that. Don't get me wrong. He was not advocating banning the Bible. He was just shifting the blame and using a fallacy to say, okay, well, look what's in the Bible. Okay, well, the Bible isn't pictures. The Bible is actually words. And yes, there are graphical scenes in the Bible, especially Song of Solomon's, because he does talk about breasts and so forth. And Solomon did have a lot of different wives, so he wasn't monogamous. So there is that angle of it too. However, the Bible is a book that shows the warts and the pimples of everything of human nature. And it's a reflection of mankind to show the frailty of mankind so that we can look to the Redeemer, that being Christ, so that we can have that contrast. Okay. So just like they talk about slavery, how the Bible has slavery. The Bible has slavery. You hear that all the time. Yes, it did. But the Bible never condoned man stealing. That's what we saw in the Western slave trade and the Eastern slave trade, where you would have, ships come in. No, stop there. We have Africans rounding up other Africans, putting them on the dock in these little wooden cages, and then then they would ship them off to whomever. But the Africans did 90% of the slave trading. They were the ones that started it. They're the ones that controlled it. They did it. And we have a big series on that, how Africans sold other Africans into slavery. But my point is that the Bible talks about that, but it talks about how man stealing is an abomination. And slavery was a social construct back in the day, because if you conquered a nation, you had two options to do with the people who lost. You can kill them or you can enslave them. And many times those people who were enslaved got their freedom back. So I can go on that as well for a long time. So let's continue on. But yeah, that's what I feel there about the book banning and his leaning into maybe the Bible and shifting the blame on that, because he didn't want to talk about the fact that 10-year-olds looking at porn is a bad thing. He wouldn't say it was bad. He just said it's a fair point. And so, oh, well, yeah, okay, well, whatever. That was the guy that had the toll counter. Oh, okay. I got you. Thank you. I wasn't sure. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that I look at what I say and try to be as accurate as possible. And if I'm wrong somewhere, I really appreciate people telling me where I am wrong, because I look back at sometimes live streams that I looked at and say, oh man, I messed up there. Or I'll do a video and I'll post it, not realizing that I made a mistake and didn't do it. So I got to put something into the show notes to kind of sort of make a correction there. So I appreciate that. And this may be the last one we talk about today. I need to make sure to follow you and watch you more often. I know a lot about what you are explaining, and I love to actually talk to you more often. Do you have a Discord for your YouTube channel? Yes, we do. In fact, let me go to the website. The website is actually being redone, so I'm not really promoting it because it's kind of in bad shape, I must say, because some of the scripts don't work correctly. But when I redo it, it's going to be much, much better. So here's the website. And on our main page here, our Discord is right here. So you can actually click on here and do a join right there on the box. So just go to the website, go to theconservativetake.com, and you can join the Discord right there. Let me pull my banners up here. You can see at the bottom here, the banner going across. So that's where we are on Discord. And we're also on right here below. So we're on X, we're on Telegram, on YouTube, of course, and Rumble. Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah, and if you want to actually, if you like, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. At some point in time, we're going to be taking requests for guests, social media personalities, influencers, or just people in general who don't mind getting in front of the camera, because I like to start doing interviews with people and just getting a take, pardon the pun, on people's thoughts about what's going on, whether it be pop culture, politics, the news, whatever, because the theme of this channel is destroying the woke narrative. And initially it was about movies. And this channel really got started because my love for movies. If you go back and look at our channel and YouTube really early on, I could actually maybe pull that up if you like. So let me go to my channel and just take a look here, because in the early days of this channel, we did a lot of movies. And if I just come here to the videos, actually, I don't have to do that. I can just come down to, maybe I got rid of those. But I won't go through all this, but tell you what, here's what you do. Go to our YouTube channel and just go back to the very beginning. I think you can do a search and or oldest. Here, just do oldest. And so, yeah, so this video here, this first video called How It Started, that's a good one to first see, because this, I'm sorry, I'm not showing you on the screen. I'm not sharing it. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. I do that a lot. So here you go. So on this particular screen here on our channel, this first video here, I abandoned my party, and here's why. My walk away story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. But in there, we had a lot of early videos dealing with this stuff when the parties never switched. And you see here, a lot of movie reviews. I did the greatest Christmas movies of all time. That was a fun one to do. And I did these conservative takes on particular movies, because I found that some movies had content in them that the average conservative wouldn't want to see. So I'll go out, watch the movie, and give it my score. I give a normal score of a scale from 4 stars, 1 to 10, essentially, aggregated out. And then I would do a conservative take score. And that would be the score, whether it's woke or if it had, bad language, if it really went against a lot of conservative sensibilities. And so that's how the channel took off. And then I eventually took the channel away from my name, which was Kyle Suggs at the time. And I changed the channel name to The Conservative Take. And since then, this channel has grown to about, if I look here, I think we're somewhere, we're at 100, we're at 180 million views so far on the channel, and about 213,000 subscribers. So we've been at this for a while, and we have plans for more growth. And I would love to do more with the Discord server. If you are out there and you get on there, I'll get a ding and we can just talk there, or on Telegram there as well. That's probably a better one, simply because I'm on it more often. But yeah, I really appreciate that. And so just let me know. Okay, I won't put this on the screen. I'm reading it now. I'm reading it, so I'll keep that private. I'm sorry, reading your. Yeah, Matt Walsh. I mean, Matt Walsh is okay. But I was watching Am I a Racist recently, and I just couldn't get through it. Not because I thought it was a bad movie, but just because I just couldn't. It was so cringe watching the left do what they were doing, and I was like, I can't watch this. It's so embarrassing. So I couldn't watch it. It was funny though. Okay. So yeah, you know how to get a hold of us. If you like, comment if you want to get hold of, actually, let me give you our address, our email address, or go to YouTube. If you go to YouTube, go to the About section. Let me go back to here. Let me do that real quickly. Can you see it still? No, you can't. I need a producer. That's what I really need. Anybody want to produce these shows for me? I guarantee you'll get a very bad salary. But if you come to the About section, you can go to the email address here and click on that. You can email us directly and just put in your handle, and I'll remember you. And that way we can stay in touch there. Or if you go on Discord or go on Telegram, put your handle on here, and I'll make a note of it so I won't forget, and we'll go from there. So, okay. So I'm going to leave it here, drop it here. And as I normally do, I'm going to go through the people who are online and thank them for commenting. Salmon, of course, thank you so much. And Dave Diaz, Tommy as well, thank you for your comments. And I think that's all we had for comments. And we'll be doing this again tomorrow as well. But we also going to, and I think tomorrow will be a reaction Friday. We may shift our reaction Fridays from the mornings to our later show, where I basically take a video and I react to it in real time. And I think we'll do that instead on Friday. So I'm looking forward to that. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. And lastly, let me give a quick plug for myself. The bottom there, we have a account on Locals, which is on our Rumble. So let me pull that up real quickly to show you. I haven't really plugged this yet, but I'm going to plug it now. And so what Locals is essentially our membership service. And in here, we post articles that right now are free. They're not in a paywall whatsoever. But we publish these articles about various different things. They go all the way back to the election. And we also do policy statements of issues that are pertinent to political wonky data. That's good to have as a evergreen type of information. But yeah, so this is a membership deal. So if you want to go to locals.com, it's free. But if you want some of the other content, I think it's $2 a month we're asking for that, which is different from what we had on YouTube, which we no longer do our memberships on YouTube. We're converting them all over to Locals, and we're asking people, if you were a member before, these are our former members. If you see your name on here, please consider going over to Locals and supporting us there instead, because YouTube just they're causing us issues, and we want to just get away from that model altogether and grow our channel on Rumble, because I think it's more sustainable for conservatives and it's more future-proof, and it gives me less stress because I know if I'm on Rumble, I can say certain things without having to worry about being censored as much. And so that's what we're doing with this new paradigm. And we're having a whole new paradigm in terms of our business model. And hopefully in the next 2 years, you'll see a huge difference where we are now. Because I believe Rumble and Locals will be a much different site than it is now, as it's been infused with more money recently based on investors and other things as well. All right, guys. So thank you so much for that. And for that, guys, with that, I hope you have a pleasant evening. We've been online for about an hour and 44 minutes, and I appreciate everyone hanging on with us. God bless you guys. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. And God bless the U.S.